C.J. Stroud, the Houston Texans quarterback, is getting all of the hype. Hell, he even made it in to the most recent episode of Hard Knocks talking about the New York Giants and their off season.
Let's go the last 10 years in pro football. 2014, Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel, and Teddy Bridgewater. 2015, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. 2016, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch. 2017, Mitchell Trubisky, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson. 18, Baker, Sam, Josh, Lamar. 19, Kyler, Daniel. 20, Burrow, Tua, Justin, Love, Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Fields, Jones, Pickett, Bryson, Stroud. How many of them hit in the last 10 years?
While we're doing this, not a lot. What do you take from that, Dabes?
Take the Stroud.
Take the Stroud.
An intellectually dishonest radio host would take a look at that list of all the quarterbacks drafted since 2014 and tell you that Brian Daboll thinks C.J. Stroud is better than all of them.
He didn't say take Joe Burrow.
He didn't say take Patrick Mahomes.
He didn't say take Justin Herbert.
He didn't say take Lamar Jackson. He didn't say take Josh Allen.
He said take the Stroud.
He coached Josh Allen. He said take the Stroud.
He didn't say take the Daniel Jones.
That's also true.
You guys see that screen pass he threw yesterday at camp and went like 5 feet over his running back's head? Tough look.
Boy.
Tough look.
Yeah, Daniel Jones has been having a rough offseason.
Yeah. Hey, he's in shape, though. I've read that a bunch.
He's paid as well.
Yeah. He got paid. Looks good. Play good? Probably not.
But this is how much CJ Stroud hype there is right now on an episode of Hard Knocks about the New York Giants. Stroud, of all the quarterbacks that were just listed there by one of his underlings, Brian Daboll, head coach of the New York Giants, says, find me the Stroud going in to this past NFL draft. And by the way, they ended up with Malik Neighbors. They didn't even get a quarterback.
Because there was no Stroud.
There was no Stroud.
So
from what everyone said,
he didn't take the Bo Nix.
That's true. Sean Payton would tell you that's the Stroud of this draft.
Yep.
But Sean Payton's used to lying. CJ Stroud, meanwhile, the hype continues. He has shot up the odd boards over the summer. He has leapfrogged Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, and Justin Herbert over the past few months. He has the second favorite status to win MVP behind Patrick Mahomes after opening at plus 1,400. So he's gone from 14 to 1 to what, Joe?
850 to 1.
Okay.
So 8.5 to 1. And then one of the websites, too, I think it was FanDuel. I have it on here somewhere. He is the most bet player to win MVP.
Wow.
So the public is the reason why these odds have changed. But it's not just perception, but it's the fans and the bettors across sports are making him the most bet player to win MVP this year, which is interesting because one of the players we're going to talk here in this segment about with CJ Stroud, when these odds opened, him and Jordan Love were tied at plus 1,400 to be MVP in 2024. So Stroud has jumped all those guys. Part of it's the odds were good, but I also don't think it's going to slow down. Because the MVP, it's about you have to be at the top of your league pretty much, the 1 or the 2 seed. But it's also about the story. And what CJ Stroud did last year, if he can recreate that and they're a top 2 seed in the AFC, he's winning MVP this year. Like he is going to win instead of giving it to Mahomes again, unless Dak Prescott has an incredible season and the Cowboys are the 1 seed. CJ Stroud could easily win MVP this year.
Definitely trending that way. And the money is talking, if you will. I saw a graph. Look at this graph posted by Hayden Winks on Twitter. He works for Underdog Fantasy. I think that's Lance Zerline's boys. CJ Stroud has a 1% interception ratio while being the most aggressive deep middle passer in the NFL. And if you take a look at the graph, Stroud has by far the highest percentage on his targets deep over the middle. So over the middle and 5+ air yards downfield. He's throwing it more than anybody, and he is converting it more than anybody. And I mean, he is far up in the top right of this graph. No one's really close. Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins, I guess, are the closest. Also, Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson are fairly close.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him. When I looked at this graph, the first quarterback or team I was looking for was Kansas City. Because the one argument that a lot of people are going to make about C.J. Stroud this year is that teams are going to take away all of that. That they're going to focus on, what can you be good at? And because that's what Mahomes did early on, right? Like Mahomes, it was deep over the middle, deep downfield to Tyreek Hill. That was the way the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl. That's why he had all that great success. And then teams started changing their coverage against them. So Mahomes really has had to adjust in a major way. We're like, Mahomes on this list, he's towards the bottom, basically, of it. And
okay, so this list, there are some faults in it.
So, but I think what that kind of also tells you is that the Kansas City Chiefs have gone away from it and still had great success. And that's the ultimate question for CJ Stroud this year is if they take away the deep ball, the deep middle of the field, where he had all that success with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, is like what's the counterpunch for this year? Because if he's going to win MVP and they're going to reach the expectations that everyone has for them this season, or that most have them at this point now for this season, they're going to have to find a huge counter because what they had last year is not going to be the same. Like it's going to look very different, and that's why they have a 5-headed monster as well, to figure it out.
I'm very curious if we get to a point where people are saying that CJ Stroud is overrated. It has not happened yet. And you truly cannot go very far on the internet without seeing something that is, as the kids say, glazing CJ Stroud. I don't know what that means, so I'm allowed to say it. What?
I don't either.
I don't know
Sean?
what it means, but I'm hijacking more Gen Z terms thanks to our intern, Ryan.
It's euphemistic and it's really hard to explain.
You don't have to.
It's hard to explain on air because it is actually very graphic involving oral sex.
Okay. Hang on. My bad. I did not know that.
I understand what it means now, though.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
I do. Thank you for teaching us something.
Yes.
I figured.
Slobbing on the knob.
I don't know if you
better?
can do that either. What I knew, I thought that it was in reference to like the glaze of a donut. Everyone's just adding sweetness to the delicious treat.
I mean, some would say that's similar.
Okay. Well. Now we know something new. You learn something every day.
So that's what all those high schoolers are tweeting when they're writing blah blah blah's glazing this guy. That's what they're saying.
Well,
so are people going to call CJ Stroud overrated this year?
At some point, I think yes. I think if he has one bad week, if people are going to do it about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and saying like they're done, they're definitely going to do it at CJ Stroud at some point this year.
The way that first,
it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
All those primetime games too. He's not going to win every single one of them.
No, the way that First Take and all these shows, the way that they're just actively talking about the Houston Texans for the first time in the history of the franchise, basically on a regular basis. You look at Fox or ESPN or whatever, and there's always a Texan segment on. It feels like.
Yeah.
And so the minute he falters, Stephen A. and Colin Cowherd and all these guys, Nick Wright, like they are going to go on the attack.
Some will
immediately.
I'm curious as to who will try to be the CJ Stroud guy.
Like defender?
Yeah,
Is it Orlovsky?
It's not going to be Nick because Nick is the Mahomes guy. Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to who is going to put themselves in the Stroud camp. I don't know that Cowherd is allowed to, since Cowherd believed Stroud never went through adversity, even though his dad was in jail when he was in middle school.
Who's the biggest Stroud defender? Probably Shannon Sharp.
I don't know.
They speak
I
pretty
feel like
highly.
it's Mina Kimes, it's Dan Orlovsky, it's Ryan Clark. It's one of those.
Yeah, Mina's not going to back off Stroud.
Yeah.
No shot.
Well, the thing with the First Take guys is that it works when one guy's the defender, one guy's the antagonist, is the attacker.
Dude, Stephen A. hates the Cowboys so much, and that's become such a part of his brand. Maybe defending Stroud relentlessly over Dak is going to be the way that he's the ultimate Stroud defender.
The tricky thing is, while there's a lot of hype for the Texans this offseason, they still, in my opinion, are not nationally relevant yet.
I was going to say, I don't think the Cowboys-Texans rivalry, I don't think that plays nationally. I don't think they care.
Yeah, I think the Texans have to be really, really good for it to care.
Yeah.
And depending on what happens on that Sunday night game or whatever it is, that if the Texans win that game, it'll become more nationally relevant.
100%. Now, while we're talking about C.J. Stroud, there's a couple other quarterbacks who get discussed as overrated all of the time, and it almost always seems to create some sort of race war.
Yes.
These are the two guys. First off, Lamar Jackson, who I think is a very good quarterback, but he keeps having these bad moments in the playoffs, specifically the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. John Harbaugh is the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and at a press conference fairly recently, he had this to say about the Ravens quarterback.
The vision for Lamar Jackson, and it's a vision, it's something you see it like it's already happened. You can see it like it's already been done. The victory has already been won when you pour into a vision. And the vision that we have together is that Lamar Jackson is going to become and be known and be recognized as the greatest quarterback ever to play in the history of the National Football League.
Okay. Now he's overrated. He wasn't.
He is definitely overrated entirely because of John Harbaugh saying that.
John Harbaugh's glazing, dude.
I guess I already know the answer to this question from what I've learned about you. But Peyton Manning at one point, I'm guessing, you would have deemed as one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL because of his playoff failures.
Yes, 100%.
And that's where I think that's where Lamar's at, where Peyton struggled to win the big one. And even though he beat, Chicago, it was Rex Grossman, and he got dinged for that for a while.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison because you've also got two MVPs for Lamar Jackson, and Manning, I'm sure, had a couple of MVPs, but he had some really bad playoff games. And eventually he didn't, but Manning in the playoffs was not like Manning in the regular season. It's not to say Manning was bad or anything like that. Manning's an all-time great, no doubt about it. But I always felt that he was put on this pedestal, and while Tom Brady was not early on in his career. And yes, I was biased. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I was a little bit biased. I will fully admit it. And I also rooted against Peyton Manning when he was with Tennessee. So maybe I had a little bit of a bias against Peyton Manning. But I always felt like he was put on a pedestal above everybody. And it's like people forgot about some of those struggles that he would have in the playoffs and just sort of overlook it. And going into the next year, remember there was this playoff game where the Colts smoked either the Chiefs or the Broncos, and they were playing the Patriots the next week on the road, and they were favored to win. And the Patriots had a bunch of backup corners, and the Colts scored 3 points after the rules had been changed to help the receivers get off jams.
And that's why I put Lamar in the overrated category, because I would have agreed with the Peyton Manning sentiment back then. Lamar's got to win in the playoffs. He's James Harden. He's Peyton Manning. He's a regular season stat filler, and he's a great quarterback for fantasy football, but he's not in my top 5 of guys I'm picking to help me win a Super Bowl right now.
We got to do something about Lamar Jackson's mud butt, because he left practice after 1 hour yesterday.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the same issue that he had to leave that game for a little bit in.
Does he have the cholera?
I don't know, but he seems to have stomach issues a lot. That's the first thing I thought of when it said Lamar Jackson lasts just 1 hour in his return to Ravens practice. I'm like, oh man, this guy had to poo again.
Dude, just say you don't want to practice.
Yeah.
This isn't high school recess or high school.
Well, he tried to, but apparently he looked shaky, and then he left.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess he was going to try to gut through it. And then you can't really
nice.
you can't really show up to practice and then leave without an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what is he doing in the offseason that's making him sick to start the year every year?
No, I seriously, I think he's got an
sick
issue
in the middle of the year too.
Yeah.
He's just sick all the time.
He might have the IBS or something like that. Listen, there's a lot of people out there. Lamar Jackson as a spokesperson for IBS. That's something you can't really do if you're a quarterback, because you'll get roasted whenever you have a bad moment.
Because
but he should endorse it.
I'm already coming up with the idea of when they lose in the playoffs.
You're gonna show the ad,
Yeah, because he poops himself. He poops himself in the playoffs every year. The jokes write themselves.
More people say Lamar Jackson is overrated than C.J. Stroud. Now we'll see what happens. Also, Josh Allen apparently overrated. There was an anonymous source that wrote this. Check this. It's an anonymous executive who wrote this in a article. Quote, Allen's 47 interceptions since 2020 are the most in the league. One of the more overrated players in the NFL. Immense talent, but makes a lot of mistakes. He's underdeveloped at winning at the line of scrimmage, tends to lock onto targets, more of a thrower than precision passer, and he forces throws into traffic. Now, I don't know if Brandon Beane actually saw those comments from an anonymous scout in an article written by, I believe, Sports Illustrated, but Brandon Beane, general manager of the Buffalo Bills, had this to say when asked if Josh Allen is overrated.
I just say if you're not going to put your name on it, we really shouldn't validate it. I know it gets validated because it's on ESPN, and I'm not a fan of that style, and I wish the writer wouldn't include a comment like that. I don't think Josh deserves that. And again, I'm biased, but I'm tired of hearing it. Sal, there's idiots everywhere. Right? I don't know. Till you put your name on it, I don't know. I think he's done plenty.
Yeah, your coaching staff told you last year, Brandon Beane, that when they had Josh Allen stop throwing the football and running the ball more with James Cook, what happened? Oh, you won a bunch of football games. Josh Allen also very overrated.
Coincidentally, when Stephon Diggs' numbers went down to what Joe's saying, yeah, the Bills' offense was better. They were throwing it less.
Because he's got the Brett Favre syndrome.
These two quarterbacks, whenever they are called overrated, there will be a bunch of generally race baiters that seem to throw this out there because they know that Allen, because all the whites will come and defend him, or Josh Allen, because a bunch of black people will come and defend him. Whenever that gets thrown out there as one of these guys is overrated, it is very fun to sit back and eat some popcorn on the internet.
Also, Brandon Beane, every time a GM goes after anonymous sources and stuff, when of course it's about their guy, it's like, so Brandon Beane just doesn't talk to reporters anonymously off the record. Like, he doesn't give quotes off the record giving his opinion on things. He just doesn't do it.
Like Mike Sando does his quarterback tiers every year, and it should be coming out soon. He gets GMs and scouts and coaches to be a part of it every single year.
He gets like 100 of them.
You're telling me that Brandon Beane or someone like very close to the Bills is not a part of that exercise where it's all anonymous? Okay.
Yeah, it's always something where it's like, oh, if you're not going to put your name on it, then don't say anything. And then he gets up and then calls the local beat writer or something, he calls Adam Schefter or something. Like, they all do it. It's so soapboxy, and I'm sick of it.
Clean up aisle me. That was actually from an ESPN article. NFL executives, coaches, and scouts ranking the NFL's top 10 quarterbacks.